Hello, abnormal family. Good to see everyone. I have another encounter for you guys that was sent in to us. So, what did y'all think about the two lives in one day? Was that something that you all liked? That sure took a lot of work. But we had two very great people on our show. It was really fun. 401 Files was an awesome interview. D.A. Roberts was another awesome interview, guys. Hope to have them back. We will have them back. That was just something that it's really hard to do two lives in one day. We'll just have to spread them out more, but it was well worth it. All right, guys, this story comes in from the Appalachian Mountains, and I think y'all are going to really enjoy this one. For a little bit of context, live in the middle of the heart of the Appalachia, some of the tallest, most forested part of our entire mountain range. We have had our share of sightings of ghosts, lights in the sky, things of that nature. But the biggest problem we have is the wood boogers, or the mountain boss, which I will explain after a little bit of the background. My grandmother and my father are from a small native reservation in the mountains. We've grown up with the stories of the entities and the monsters that could hide in the hills and the hollers of our land. Growing up, my granny never let us go outside after dark, no matter if it was 7 p.m. in the evening, because dark comes early here in the winter. If the sun was down, we were inside. We weren't allowed to be loud, look out the window, or whistle after the sunset. We keep cattle, and whenever a calf was born, they'd be kept inside the barn at night no matter what, with all the lights on in the barn. Often, my dad will sit up at night and watch both the barn and the ridge line with a rifle to make sure nothing happens, nor is attracted by the smell of the blood from the birth. Where we live now is a few miles from the reservation, and it is over a mile off of the state road up a winding gravel road. And while we have pasture land, we keep the cattle on most of our lands are heavily wooded. To say it is remote is putting it fairly lightly. We live about a half a mile up from our grandparents on family-owned land, and that has been in the family on my grandfather's side for over 100 years. My parents and my youngest sister live with my spouse, and I and our children. For years it seemed that most of the things were just what I said before, stories. Different from family members had stories to tell things they had seen or heard. Not that many of the siblings and I didn't believe them. It was just we'd never seen anything ourselves. Until recently. The first time I heard it myself, my sister, father, and I were sitting on the porch having a late night shoot of the bull. Just catching up with one another. My sister's dog, Tony, a fearless pit bull, started to growl from her spot under the bench. She stood and moved to the edge of the porch, looking at the edge of the woods. Her hackles were raised. She was very angry. She was not a vicious or aggressive dog, but she does protect her family and will bark or even chase bears or coyotes that get too close. My sister called out to her, trying to soothe the dog back down. Tony wouldn't move. She just kept staring into the trees. So we all got quiet and we looked and listened to see what had her like that. Then came the first loud resounding. Knock, knock, knock. 3 in a row, with long, probably 15-second pauses between each knock. After the knocks, I realized that the crickets had stopped. The odd owl call and the frog croak had stopped. Nothing but the knocks and our breath could be heard. Now, what I would like to say is we hear owls all the time here in the Appalachians. But the weird thing was, these owls that night, it just didn't sound right. They sound off, hard to explain. but if you know what an owl sounds like, then you know that these sounded different. At that point, I was scared and wanted to go in, but my dad, a retired tribal police officer, always has a revolver on him. He and my sister were both curious. While spooked, I agreed to stick it out since Dad was there, and he had his firearm. I was also curious, but stayed put. Tony stopped growling and backed up a bit, still on her guard, but her tail was tucked, like she was frightened. I've never seen her scared of anything, and that added to the whole sense of the fear I had. We sat in silence, waiting for anything else to happen. We could hear some fallen leaves and branches moving, and Tony's ears perked back up. Whatever it was large but moving back up the ridge. From the other side of the holler on the opposite ridge, we heard another set of knocks, deeper, if it was a harder wood. This time there was 4. It was knock, 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 and then a little bit later another knock. This time there was 5 from the opposite ridge. There is no way that this same one my sister had commented. After a few moments of whispered discussion about this, the first call split the silence. They are just like you hear people talk about on Bigfoot shows, the whooping screams and calls. First, from the far ridge, where the second knocking had sounded from. Then, from slightly higher on the closer ridge, right behind our house, there was an answer. That's how they tell each other where they are, Dad says. As I am shaking, I am so scared. They travel the ridge tops, following the creek. Those are the wood boogers you and Granny tell us about, ain't it? My sister asked, still comforting her dog. Yeah, Dad said. I hear them a lot out here. I make sure they don't get too close to the house or the barns. I don't like hearing it one bit, though. That's why I always keep some thunder on me. From there it became bigger, more open topic of discussion. In our language it is called Sulkali, pronounced Sukelu, and is basically our word for Sasquatch. My family often referred to it as the woodburger, though. As we walked more and talked around the porch, we didn't leave the porch. The discussion continued. I learned my spouse had seen one years ago trying to break into the chicken coop. My dad told us about times when he was still working for the police. He had been called out about something or someone being outside people's houses and responding to the calls to hear the wood knocks, smell musty, stinky smells like rotten, wet dog. He has lots of stories of similar occurrences and often hears activity as he likes to sit on our porch at night to keep his eyes out, he says. After that night, we first heard it together. I don't know if it was simply more aware of things or if the activity had picked up, but things have been happening more often. Apples and pears have been stolen from our fruit trees, and I don't mean just a few missing. Picked clean by something that had the ability to carry them off. A chicken or two would go missing from the coop, which does have an open part that is attached to a long arm, which could probably reach in and grab chickens if it really wanted to. Screams were coming more often, sometimes so close you can hear it inside the house. A couple of times my dad has been out doing target practice or testing one of his black powder rifles that he restores. And the night following his shooting, we will hear aggressive screaming and even have small rocks land on our roof in the yard. Thankfully, none of them have broken anything on the house, but they have dented some yard furniture in the backyard, which has basically been abandoned due to how close they get back there sometimes. I think they want us to know they're in charge and that they are always here and that we live on their real estate. One night, as a treat for my kids for summer vacation starting, we put a bed sheet up on the side of the house and used our projector for a movie night in the yard. We had almost not noticed the sounds of summer evening fade due to the movie noise, but one of my kids said she missed hearing the bugs. There was a strong, skunky, musty smell that carried to the truck. We quickly made ourselves inside the home. Recently, my sister saw one for herself the first time. There's an open field on the side of the road when you first get to the state paved road headed back to town. My sister was headed in from work late the other night and saw something behind one of the few trees in the field. She stopped and backed up, pulling at an angle to see it better, and she turned the bar light on the front of her truck. She said what she saw was at least 7 foot, 8 foot tall. Knowing the tree, it peered from behind the tree. Part of this creature's body, reddish-brown, matted hair, visible with the bright bar when the light hit it. She said it felt like it could see her in the truck. It was a heavy feeling. Even though the bar light and the bright headlights were probably blinding the thing, she told me she felt like vomiting. She was so scared. And she drove straight home. She was crying when she got here, shaking. You could tell what she had seen had really bothered her. It made her physically sick. That was a couple of weeks ago. Tonight, before my sister and I decided would be a good place to start with the submission, 2 different occurrences happened that scared me pretty badly. The first, I had gotten hot from cooking supper, so I stepped out on the porch to get some fresh air, and my sister tagged along and sat on the porch swing. We were sitting there in silence, basically just scrolling on our phones, when a long, clear whistle came from the ridge closest to our house. She and I froze, and we looked at each other. Then a second shorter one sounded, followed by a clear knock, which may or may not have been followed by more as we darted into the house as quickly as we could. Neither of us have been too keen to stay outside since we saw it. We told our dad about it, and after supper we went to check about the cattle and the dogs, and we sent my sister both a text to read. Quietly we step out there. When we came outside, he was in the yard still, in the light of our outdoor flood lamp, looking to the tree line, the same one that Tony often stared into. There was no normal sounds of the night, no insects, no animals, except something was whistling in a weird way, like it wanted to sound like a screech owl, but it was not. And then there was another owl that hooted back that did not sound like an owl. Wrong. It was similar. It just wasn't right. And my dad looked at me and said, "They mimic the forest. They mimic the animals. They love the owls. The owls are a strong symbol to them. And they all mimic the owls." Then it stopped for a long moment, and it was quiet. Then came a low, bellowing call. It was loud and close enough. We came in for the night. There is something to be, at every least, there is something out there, my dad says. Something. The knocks started and were loud. My dad said, "We must make sure they stay off of our property." My dad goes out and shoots into the air. He says that they don't like gunfire, and that could be why they're upset, because my dad has been shooting more often because he's been restoring more black powder rifles. I hope that this does not get worse. It is so scary it makes us physically sick. I wanted to share this with all of your viewers, Mike. I am a huge subscriber. Thank you. Yeah, it could be the change, I guess, around your home that's got them upset. You know, y'all are shooting more often. It's a different noise. They probably don't like guns, and they're trying to get you to stop. They're very territorial. I wouldn't stop. You know, if it's my place, I would do what I wanted to, but I would take precautions. Maybe, like everybody says, you know, get you some deer cams and stuff and put out there. Try to be in at dark. It sounds like they're getting pretty close to your house and they're communicating around your house, so I know what that feels like. We used to hear the whistles all the time at my granny's, and the owls on my investigations. I know when I hear the owls that it's fixing to be a bad night. Thank you for sharing your encounter, everybody, and I hope that you all enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. Until next time, guys, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. We'll see you on the next one.
I can see